working on my 17 Silverado. It's got the 8-speed transmission in it, and I've been having problems with the temperature sensor for the transmission. It's been failing for me, so I'm going to go about replacing that, doing the transmission filter, and also just refilling the transmission. First, I got my parts here. This is a kind of a half harness for the transmission. You can see it's got a bulk type connector, then all these other little connectors. And if I'm not mistaken, this piece right here, this is the actual temperature sensor. And apparently they're pretty fragile, they fail a lot. Filter. Here's the filter part number. Here's the sensor part number. These are GM part numbers, so we're replacing with GM parts. And then this is the transmission fluid that you use to refill it. From what I understand, it's about 7 or 8 quarts, so I got 12. So, should be enough. We're underneath the truck here, and there's a heat shielding that goes in right here. There's just 3 bolts on that. They're not quite easy to get to, but there's 1 here and then 2 that you gotta go from the top side to pull that off, but it's shielding the transmission here from the exhaust. But you get those off, and I found this line here. I think this is a breather, but I'm gonna be able to pull that out to be able to refill the transmission level through there. But basically now I just need to take off my pan bolts, drop it down, try not to make a mess, and get this pan off. After trying to not get it on the exhaust, that's what I ended up doing. Yeah, so the pan doesn't want to come out basically with the exhaust manifold across there. But if we put a pry bar on the frame to pry the exhaust down just a little bit, might be able to just pull the pan out. I need 2 hands for it for sure, but that's how I'm going to go about this, trying to just pry the exhaust down without prying the pan to bend the pan at all. Okay, go for it.
No metal coming out.
No, there's none there, but if you look on the magnet there's a little bit of metal material. So I just had the transmission flushed, and the thing about flushing is that doesn't come out. It's just stuck on the magnet. So when you take the pan out, you can change the filter, you can pull all those metal shavings out and basically, you know, get new life out of your magnet at least. But yeah, honestly, this is pretty clean. It might get alarmed by the amount of metal in there, but there is some in there, but yeah, it's normal, and I'm not worried about putting that back on exactly how it is after I clean it up. So this filter here, it's got a O-ringed surface here, and then there's just an alignment pin right up here, but basically it just sets up in there, and you can just pull it out, make a mess while you're at it. Use 2 hands. So all of these connections are basically idiot proofed, so they can only go in one way and they can't go to the wrong one. So this is the harness here that we're looking at. Here's the sensor, and basically you just pull all these connectors off. There's a little clips to hold them in. There's alignment dowels here to hold this whole plastic unit on, but once you take all these clips off, just gotta be careful to not break any of these. Put the new one in, and like I said, it's idiot proof, so you don't have to worry about where they come from, where they go, because they only go on one way. Put it all back in. Okay, so these clips, there's a little plastic unit there. I just have a small screwdriver, press that in, and just pull that clip right out. Okay, just showing again how this really is idiot-proof. Yeah, they have different colored wires on here and stuff and such, but look at these connectors. You see how that connector is versus that connector. That little keyway on there is at a different spot. That's why I say these are keyed and idiot-proof. You can't mess this up. They only go on the one way. So that's why I say they're idiot-proof. Just as long as you make sure you plug them all in, there won't be any problems. Pin here looks like it goes right into here, and you can see this little mark right there. That's where this tab was running. Basically, just I line that up and just give her a push. And apparently I didn't get that in the right spot. There we go. It's sitting there tight in. It's gonna be pushing down just a little bit, but when the pan goes on, that'll hold it up tight where it needs to be at. So not too bad. It just pops right in. You don't have to replace the filter to do the sensor, but I mean, you're in there, and it's a cheap part, and it's a good thing to do because the dealership won't even do it. I asked them and they said no, so that's why I'm doing it myself. Yeah, just a quick showing that I cleaned up the pan here. These two magnets, you can actually just pull them off and clean them up off the pan there. But it cleans up really easy, and then just the gasket's reusable, just sits right back on there. There's a top and a bottom. There's a pin on there.
Look at the pin on the top and bottom side.
Yep, right there. You just drop it on there, and maybe
match that hole up. And then one on the back.
And that holds the gasket in place, so we can slide it up underneath the truck, right in there, and should stay in place, all the bolt holes lined up. Yeah, so the pan's back on, the bolts are on. Yes, I know I'm missing one. I'm gonna have to find one and put that in later. But the torque's back on these. They're not that tight. You can see, I just have a dial one, but the torque spec is 80 to 96 inch-pounds. So hit somewhere as close as you can to that range. Basically, it's not a lot, just barely anything there, but I'm gonna go like a star pattern, crisscross star pattern. So this plug sits in there in that little hole, and this little cap's on it. So when it's sitting in there, I'm just gonna pull it out now because it's easier to show. So when it's sitting in there, this is pressed down. So if you come in, you pull this cap out, you pull that cap out, then it releases pressure in there, and this whole plug can then pull out. So that's how you pull that plug out right there. And then it's kind of a pain to get back up in there, but I think I'm gonna use a little pump and pump the fluid right back in. So what I use is just this little parts store pump, and just routed this up in there and filled it up. There's a little drain plug in the front. It didn't show, but I'll pull up to that in a minute because we have to start it up again and let it run. So that needs to be at that drain plug level when, it's not a drain plug, it's a fill plug level when the truck is running and level. So got it up on jack stands, so the back half of the pan should be a little bit fuller, so we might have a little bit extra fluid in there, which is kind of what I'd prefer instead of trying to pump it up full. So yeah, so we're gonna level it down, start it up, and see how much it sucks up and see what the level's at. So I'm about to turn this on to check my fluid level. I scrolled through, found the transmission fluid temperature showing 82 degrees. Right now it's about, I don't know, 79 in here, so that's pretty darn accurate, I'd say. I'm happy with that. I used to be about 30 degrees too cold here, so that seems to be a lot more accurate, so I'm happy with that. But now I'm just going to start it up and put it into drive. And to start with, I'm not going to heat it to a full heat cycle. I'm just going to see where it's at, because the way that I'm filling it, I'm going right around the exhaust. So I just want to make sure that I am full first, and then I'm going to get the transmission fully hot and check where my fluid level's at then. Okay. And so I have the truck up on jack stands right now, so right now it's just sitting here spinning. You can see it says I'm going about 5 miles an hour. Turn that off. But yeah, everything's spinning. Transmission fluid temperature, you can see it's starting to rise already, but everything's moving good. I'm just gonna shut it off now. Check my fluid level again, put more in as I need, and then after this I'm going to do a full heat cycle and then check it again. So we were checking the level here. Everything's warmed up and oil's in. One thing to note is you have to have the engine running while you're checking it, don't forget. If the engine's off, the oil will come out of the hole, but as soon as you turn that engine on, you'll find out you're actually low on oil. So that's the difference. Is that pump's running, it's running all the fluid through the transmission. So when the engine's running, the oil level will drop on the transmission pan there. So that engine has to be running while you check that. But yeah, basically once the fluids stops running out and it turns into a drip, that's the level. So that's where it needs to be. That's good enough for me. It's getting brakes in there. It's just starting to dribble. All right, shut her down.